What is up, all you amazing Mets fans? Welcome to the Amazing Mets fan cast. Tonight, we're going to have a fun show. We're going to talk a little bit about the current Major League Baseball playoffs, what's been going on, where are things going, who might be going to the World Series. There's lots of big shockers, lots of upsets this last weekend, and the playoffs have been an interesting thing so far this year. I know as Mets fans, we're not too happy with our results, but nonetheless, there's been a lot going on in the Major League Baseball playoff situation. So we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to close the show, and we're going to talk about the Mets manager, Buck Showalter. All right, I put a post up online. I saw people in a lot of the different groups putting it out there. Should Buck have been fired after the 101 win season and getting knocked out in the first round of the playoffs? Should he have been fired? Interesting to see that, especially after winning 101 games. So I figured it'd be a fun topic to discuss tonight. So we're going to discuss that at the end of the show. And I put a thread up on our Facebook page amongst many other of the different Mets groups as well. And I got a lot of comments. I got a lot of them I'm going to put up on the show tonight. And we're going to talk about what people thought of if Buck Showalter should be fired or not. So if you put in a comment on one of the groups or on the Facebook page, you might see it tonight. I definitely can't get to them all because there was over 300 of them. So lots of discussion on the Buck Showalter topic, but let's get right into it first tonight. Let's look at the Major League Baseball playoffs. Wow. What a bunch of shockers this last weekend. I don't know if many people saw that this was going to be coming, but it did happen. And we have two wildcard teams that are in the NLCS this year. That's right. The Dodgers have fallen to the San Diego Padres, and the Atlanta Braves fell to the Philadelphia Phillies, of all teams, too. Philadelphia barely got into the playoffs, but somehow managed to get by and pretty much dominate Atlanta throughout the series. So we'll talk about that in just a second. And then over in the American League, we can see that Houston has just clinched its spot in the American League Championship Series. We're still waiting on the Yankees and the Guardians. Still getting used to saying Guardians, even though it's been, I think, a year or so now with it. But nonetheless, the Guardians, not the Indians, the Guardians. We're going to talk about a little bit about that. So let's go back to the NL. Let's go back to the National League. How many people thought the Padres were going to take it to the Dodgers like they did? I'm not going to lie. I did think that this was going to happen, that if they got by the Mets, I thought that they would take them in 5. And I thought they were going to win that series for the Padres. I thought they were very primed to beat Los Angeles, had a lot of good momentum on their side, and nonetheless, they did it. Pretty amazing considering Los Angeles, I think, had 110 wins this season. So at least we're not, as Mets fans, in the we're all the 100+ win teams are gone, which is just interesting, except for I think Houston is a little over 100 too. I think they're the only ones left in the American League, but all the National League teams, they are gone. So San Diego is going on to the end of the National League Championship Series to take on the Phillies. I can't believe I was actually rooting for the Phillies this weekend. And maybe some of you other Mets fans out there feel the same way. Never rooted for the Phillies a day in my life, but I really wanted to see the Braves lose, especially after they snuck up and got the division on us. And Philadelphia absolutely just trounced Atlanta all this series, except for one game. They were just hitting like crazy against them. Atlanta had no answers to them, and Atlanta falls to Philadelphia. The Phillies barely making it into the wild card, barely got that spot over the Brewers. Now find themselves 4 wins away from going to the World Series again. Really interesting to see. That's why Major League Baseball playoffs are so fun. All you did in the regular season is all fun and games until you get to the postseason. And look at the Dodgers, look at the Mets, look at the Braves. They all fell. They all got knocked out. And these other teams that many people thought were way below those top 3 teams in the National League, those are the ones that are still standing, and we're not here right now. So where do I think San Diego and Philadelphia is going to be? Well, we're going to switch to a best of 7 series for this now. So, of course, the wild card is 3 under the new rules, 5 in the second round, and then we're going to 7 in the championship series for each American League and National League, as well as the World Series. So where do I see it going? I think they stack up on paper pretty evenly in regards to starting pitching. I think Philadelphia's got a lot of big bomb threats over on their team with big hitters, and I think San Diego has the potential for that too. I think San Diego is a much more complete team And I think that San Diego is going to be the one that's going to beat the Phillies. I don't think it's going to be easy. I think they're going to win it in 4 games. And I think San Diego is going to go on, unfortunately, on the NL side to the World Series. Now, the AL, Houston did exactly what Houston does, and they beat the Mariners. I think the Mariners got 1 game. Maybe I'm wrong on that off of them, but pretty easy series for them. Of course, Houston has been just a huge powerhouse in the American League for many, many years. They're in there. Yankees are really having problems with those pesky Guardians right now, and weather has not played very much in the favor of the Yankees and the Guardians so far in this series. So they got rescheduled again tonight. I believe that's the 2nd or 3rd time in this series, at least, that they've been rescheduled on games. So they're getting rescheduled, and now the final game is going to be tomorrow night if weather holds up. The Guardians and the Yankees are tied at 2-2. Now, I'll make a prediction on this. I think the Guardians are going to beat the Yankees tomorrow night, and I think the Guardians are going to go on to the American League Championship Series to take on the Houston Astros. That's my opinion. That's my prediction for it. And I also feel that the Guardians are going to go on and surprise and beat the Houston Astros to go on to the World Series to take on the San Diego Padres. So based upon where we're at now, those are my predictions for the World Series. I think it's going to be San Diego versus the Guardians. Guardians are going to fight real hard, but I think at the end of the day, this is going to be a battle of starting pitching, power hitting, and if they can put it together, and if San Diego can put it together against them, I think they could have a pretty easy series against the Guardians. But this Guardians team does not stop, so I'm not going to put it past them yet. I'll look more at the World Series and make my predictions when it comes to it, when we get those 2 solid teams that are going to be in it. But I really do think it's going to be San Diego and the Guardians. And that could be a really, really interesting series in the World Series this year. So interesting stuff coming about in the playoffs right now. Just shows you that anything can happen in Major League Baseball, and probably does. So here we are. We're facing some different times. We thought we'd probably be in this a little bit longer. I did. But we're not right now. And we're looking up at San Diego or Philadelphia going on to take the NL spot right now. So hats off to both teams. They've been playing real hard and real good baseball. They're doing what they're supposed to do when the time is right, and that's the playoffs. And they're going to go and do their thing. And one of them is going to go on to the World Series this year to take on either the Yankees, the Guardians, or the Astros. So it's going to be interesting. Congratulations to those 2 teams for clinching their berth this year. And I think this could be some good things for us to come in the future. I really do. I think next year is going to be the year for the Mets, but we're going to talk all about that at another point in time. Many, many times throughout the offseason, we'll talk about it. But this topic tonight that I'm going to close the show out with is going to be Buck Showalter. Should he stay or should he go? I can't believe I saw this in a lot of the threads in some of the groups that people were actually calling after Buck won 101 games to fire him because of the Mets' exit in the first round of the playoffs this year. So I put up a comment a little comment thread, and I posted it to all the different groups that I'm in for the Mets. I think I'm in about 10 different Mets groups on Facebook where I usually put show links up, topics, whatever it might be. And I said, this would be a fun topic to do. Let's talk about this subject because I think it's a real controversial subject that Mets fans are bringing this up right now. But it's a good one to discuss. So I put up a thread on our Facebook page and I posted it out to all the different groups. And I had over 300 comments, which I'm not going to be able to get, as I said earlier in the show, to all 300 comments. But I do have a bunch loaded up. So I probably got a good at least 20 or 30 of them loaded up. And I did read every comment that I saw. So guaranteed, if you made a comment, I saw it, I read it. I just couldn't put everything in because I'd be in here all night long talking about everybody's thoughts on this situation. But it was a resounding hell no that we should not that we should fire Buck Showalter. Only a handful of people, maybe 10, 15, I would say, probably right around that number, said Buck should be fired. The rest of them were all resounding. Keep Buck. He's staying with us. We want Buck. Buck is the man for the job. Absolutely not. Do not fire him. Hold on to him. Some people thought it was my opinion and was saying some not so flattering things to me for putting it up, really jumping on me like I put it up that was my opinion. It wasn't my opinion. It was just something I saw and I thought would be a fun topic. I'm always trying to bring fun topics in the off season. So here we are. I did not think that, people. So if you saw the thread, it's not my opinion. Read what I wrote. I said it was what I'd seen in the groups, the different postings that people were saying that they thought Buck Showalter should be fired. That is not my opinion. I think Buck did a phenomenal job this year. I think Buck Showalter was a fantastic manager for the New York Mets. He was everything that we needed for him this year. And Mets made a ton of improvements in so many different ways this year. And I got a bunch of data and things I compiled to really prove my point why I think Buck should be here for the long term and why I think this is a very ludicrous thing to say that Buck should be fired. But everybody is entitled to their own opinions, and I'm not going to knock anybody if that's what you really believe. And you don't think Buck is the right guy for the job, that's your opinion, and I respect that. But I'm going to tell you why my opinion is the complete opposite, that we should, of course, keep Buck. Buck, in my opinion, should be the National League Manager of the Year. I don't think there's any denying it. He turned a team that won 77 wins in 2021 to a team that won 101 wins in 2022. Big, huge difference right there. I think if my math is correct here, that's 24 games above where they were last year. Not to mention when we're going to break down the stats in a second, but for that many reasons, you know, the Mets led the season almost the entire season up until the end, leading the division. And I know it sucked. We lost the division. We've heard it a million times. All the different Mets shows, we've heard people talk about it, myself included, a million times. We can't keep harping on it. It's over. It's done. It is what it is. But the real reality is the Mets showed a tremendous amount of improvement this year, an absolute tremendous amount of improvement. And you're going to see in the statistics here in just a second the improvement that they did make. But let me throw this out here first. Let me get all the plugs out right now before we get right into this topic with the data. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and hit that little button there for notifications. Please, I greatly appreciate that. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Facebook, make sure you like and follow us on the Facebook page too. So we would greatly appreciate that. Make sure you like this post. Helps us out as we're going to be growing this project here. So whether it's on Facebook, whether it's on YouTube, make sure you like and follow it, subscribe, notifications, whatever it might be. That's it for my cheap plugs here, just to remind everybody to make sure to follow the page. Let's look at the stats now. As I said, Buck, 100%, in my opinion, is the manager of the year and should definitely not have been fired. I think it was a ludicrous statement for a lot of reasons, because we got knocked out in the wild card, had a little bit of problems at the end of the year. It's a long season in baseball. We can't put it all on Buck. Buck was the man for the job here for many reasons all year long. The Mets needed a veteran presence in that clubhouse. When they let go Rojas last year, who I liked, I thought it was a very nice guy and a good manager. They needed a guy that was more no nonsense, no BS, somebody that wasn't going to let people walk all over him, a real players manager, a person that knew the game like the back of their hand and could talk about it with anybody and tell them and teach them and do all those things that they need to do. The Mets had a lot of talent on their team, but they needed somebody to kind of bring it together. Not going to lie either on this one. Right originally, when they hired Buck, I was kind of like, I was like, I don't know. I liked Buck when I've seen him through the years with the Rangers, with the Orioles, earlier in his career, with the Yankees, the Diamondbacks, the Orioles, I think I mentioned. Buck's been around a lot of places, never got and won that World Series, but Buck has always been a guy that the players love, that they respect, that they think very highly of. And when we first hired him, I didn't really know much of what to think. I kind of thought maybe in the beginning, I was like, I don't know if this is a very good move. But then when I kind of looked into it and thought about it, and I read a lot about Buck and I saw a lot about him, I'm like, this is a guy that we definitely made a smart decision hiring. And didn't really think that at first, but once I looked into a little bit more about him, did a little research to make a good opinion on him, Buck was the right guy for the job, and boy, did he show it this year. He turned a 77-win team down that embarrassed themselves all throughout the last half of the season last year, and he turned that team around into being one of the top contenders all year long. 101 wins, only I think the third time in the Mets franchise history that they got 101 wins, and Buck was a big pivotal part of that. Yes, they had some problems at the end of the year. They did not do good in that series against San Diego, and it's just something that kind of happens sometimes in baseball here. And Buck was just a tremendous asset to this team all year long. The players are the ones that kind of failed it down at the end, not Buck Showalter. That's my opinion on it right there. Angel Padilla says, no, he's the best manager we've had in forever. Absolutely, Angel. Best manager we've had in a long time. No doubt about it, in my opinion. I think probably in my opinion, I think he's the best manager we've had since Davey Johnson. And we've had a few good managers through the years, but I agree with the Angel. He's the best manager we've had in a really, 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 really long time. So Buck showed right off the bat in the season. The Mets, of course, were the highest hit by a pitch team in baseball. These poor guys all year long, Mark Canha especially, just got drilled all year long. Angel says, sounds about right. Yep, absolutely. Thanks, Angel. I appreciate that, my friend. But they got hit by a pitch just so much this year. And Mark Canha led the league in getting hit by a pitch. Now, if you go back to earlier in the season, when you really saw when the players, I think, really got sucked into Buck and really wanted to believe in Buck, and then when they really believed in Buck was when they kept getting drilled by these pitches. And Buck did what Buck does: is he went out there and he took no shit from anybody. He gave it right to the other teams. He gave it right to the umpires. I think he got booted out of that game too, if I remember correctly. I think it was probably in early May-ish, like right around there, maybe late April. And this was a real turning point for the team, I think, where they saw that Buck was a player's manager. He was somebody that cared about the players, and he showed it all year long. Now, Buck is a grinder, and a lot of people get on Buck about this, that he plays his top people every day. Very rarely do they get a day off. Buck is a grinder for his people. And you know what? He expects a lot out of his players, and he should. That's what a good manager does. He led the charge to teach these people how to play better baseball. Look at Francisco Lindor. Francisco Lindor is a prime example. Had a dreadful first season out there. Just didn't feel comfortable with the Mets. You saw a lot of negative influences in the clubhouse at that point. I think part of it is people like Marcus Stroman, who's an absolute fucking cancer to a locker room. And I'm sure there was a few more players in there that were like that. And Lindor just did not thrive in that first season. Now look how good he did this year. A lot of people think he was the team's MVP. I differ on that. I think he's one of the top three, biggest reasons why we got as far as we did. But to me, it's Jeff McNeil, Pete Alonso, and Francisco Lindor, the top three. Jeff McNeil being the number one. You could even have an argument for Brandon Nimmo in there, maybe as a number 4, maybe even creeping up in some other people's, different things. Marte as well. Marte could be a big influence in there, is probably in that top 3 as well for some people. So it's really different on different points of the season. But Buck knew how to really get a lot out of guys like Lindor, who struggled in that first season. And look exactly what Lindor did. He was such an electric piece to the Mets all year long. And a big reason, I think, behind that was the managing the guidance from a guy like Buck Showalter. Angel says, I honestly feel if Marte doesn't get hit with that pitch at the beginning of September, we run away with with the division. Marte getting hit, Angel, was a big, big blow to the team, of course. Marte is my wife's favorite player, and I had to hear for weeks upon end, when's Marte coming back? When's he coming back? And it hurt a lot for the Mets. I agree with the Angel. Could be a very big reason in there why the Mets did not get as far. But, one player, it should never be one player that drives a team to go farther. But Marte was a big part of our offense and of our defense, too, that we lost, and was a big pivotal element to our team all year long as well. So Mets had a lot of great players on it, but going back to Buck really knew how to manage this team, and he got a lot of great results out of them in there. There was certain times where Buck made a couple of questionable calls, but who are we to question it when Buck has been doing this his entire career? Buck knows what he's doing. Sometimes you got to switch up things just a little bit. You got to change it around. And Buck did that a little bit. Maybe didn't do it always at the right times, but that's being a fan, giving a fan perspective. I'm not a professional baseball manager. I don't have all the answers like he does. I don't know anything compared to him. I'm just a fan that's been watching forever, like many, many of you out there. And it's easy for us to critique when we don't know what's going on. But Buck was trying to play with some things, maybe didn't always do it at the right time. That's just an opinion once again. But Buck was this person, I think, all year long that was the glue that held this team together, and they got results from everybody and knew how to get results from them at all different points and times of the season. And the proof is right in the pudding. Look at it, 101 wins that they got, 101 wins. They're only the third time in Mets history they won over 100 games. So very impressive for the Mets to turn it around from 77 wins. Now let's look at the stats here, because everybody wants to look at the stats when it comes to things. Did the Mets improve in all ways in 2021? Did they regress in 2022? So here's going to be a really good sign of Buck's influence on the hitting and on the pitching that we're going to see in the statistics here. So I broke them all down by some of the bigger areas that we typically look at, in baseball, with RBIs, home runs, strikeouts, walks, all that good stuff. So let's look at 2021 first. So in 2021, here's on the hitting side of things. So in 2021, the Mets had 176 home runs. That's how many they hit in total in 2021. They had 604 RBIs, 54 stolen bases. They got 495 walks. They struck out 1,392 times, and they had a team batting average of 239 in 2021. So did they get better? They get worse in those areas. Let's see. 2022 hitting wise. So this past year, Mets had 171 home runs. So right in that section right there in home runs from 2021 to 2022, the Mets actually had 5 less home runs. Power was a big thing that we lacked all year long. So that's a telling sign right there that we just weren't producing the power that we probably should have been or that we might have needed. But it's going to get much better here for Buck and for my point and the point of a lot of people in the comments that dropped him throughout the week. In regards to RBIs in 2022, we had 735 RBIs this year. We had 131 more runs batted in. Tremendous improvement for the Mets this year in runs batted in. 62 stolen bases in 2022, 54 in 2021. So 8 more stolen bases. This is an area I would have liked to see the Mets do a lot more with in 2023. I think they need to push it a little bit more. I think they need to be doing much more in regards to stealing bases. I think they have some people that can definitely do it. But this is something I think in a stat that we should see way more of because the Mets do have the speed to be stealing much more bases than I think they are in 2022. I think we could be doing a lot more than that. So I hope to see them drive a little bit more from there. But all in all, another improvement right there, up by 8 stolen bases. Got 510 walks this year. 2021, 495. So 15 more walks we obtained this year in 2022. 1,217 strikeouts in 2022. In 2021, 1,392 batters struck out. Big, big, big improvement. 175 less strikeouts right there. Pretty amazing. Batting average wise, 259 batting average in 2022. 239 batting average in 2021. So they went up 20 points in batting average. Very, very, very big jump right there for the Mets from a really piss poor batting average in 2021 going up 20 points in 2022. So Angel says, that's funny. 131 RBIs, exactly what Pete had. There we go. Gotta love it. Pete's a big influence, right, Angel? Everybody out there, I think, can see how much of an influence Pete Alonso is to this Mets team, especially when you look at the power side of the RBIs and the home runs. But let's look at pitching now. So in 2021, here's some pitching statistics for the Mets. They had a 3.90 ERA. They had 41 saves. They gave up 190 home runs for their pitching in 2021. They gave up 475 walks in 2021. Struck out 1,453 batters, gave up 668 runs in 2021. Did the pitching improve in 2022? Well, let's take a peek now. 3.57 ERA, 3.57 ERA that they got in 2022. Big difference in the ERA right there. 3.9 was once again what it was in 2021. So improved on that right there. 41 saves equal for 2021 and 2022, both equal on that. Hold on one second. Strikeouts, 1,453 in 2021, 1,565. So over 112, I think that is on the number. 112 more strikeouts. They gave up 606 runs in 2022, 668 in runs in 2021. So we gave up significantly about 10% less runs than we did in 2021. Big improvements. The only area that we didn't improve in on the stats and on this metrics when you're looking at it was we were 5 less home runs for our hitters in 2022 than in 2021. Stats tell a lot, folks. They tell a lot. And there you're seeing a lot of improvements in that New York Mets team. And a lot of that is due in part to Buck Showalter and the managerial decisions that he made. So Buck Showalter, in my opinion, absolutely 100% should not be fired. We need Buck for the long term. I'd love to see them get 3 to 5 more years out of Buck. I know Buck's getting a little up there in age right now, but I think Buck loves baseball so much that he wants to be around it in some capacity his whole life. So I think he's only signed for 1, maybe 2 more years. So I really hope to see Buck around for the long term. You know, as long as he can go, with and his age, and as long as he wants to, I'd love to see a good 3 to 5 more years out of Buck. And hopefully it's somebody that they can turn the reins over to, that Buck has groomed and has been a big part of the Mets rebuilding process through the years, especially through the new ownership regime with the Cohen family. So it's going to be interesting to see. And absolutely, Angel, he wants a ring too. He's never, ever, ever gotten that ring. It's always eluded him. You want to know one of the main reasons, though, why I love Buck? I was reading his story about him when he was on the Yankees, when he was their manager, and the reason why Buck was let go by the Yankees in 1995. George Steinbrenner wanted Buck to fire one of his coaches. I believe it was his pitching coach. And Buck did not feel that that was justified to fire this guy after they got knocked out of the playoffs. And Buck put his foot down to that and said, no, absolutely not. I'm not going to be fired. Or I'm not going to fire this guy. He does not deserve it. Buck ended up getting fired for not firing this other coach that he had on his team who Buck believed in. That shows you enough about Buck Showalter and the character that he possesses. And yep, absolutely, Angel. True story. That shows you the character of a Buck Showalter that would go down with somebody he believes in, didn't want to fire somebody that he felt did not deserve to be fired, and somebody that he believed in on his staff. That's the type of guy Buck Showalter is. That's what he brings to the table for any ball club. And that's why people love Buck Showalter. That's why fans, for the most part, love Buck Showalter. That's why most all players love Buck Showalter that you've ever heard play for him. They'll say he's one of their favorite managers. He's a player's manager. Buck Showalter is a great person that we have anchoring this team, and I think he is going to get that ring, and that's not going to elude him anymore. And I hope it's going to be in 2023. A lot of things left to talk about in that in the near future for another show. But I'm going to go to some of your comments that I put up in the different groups. So let's hit on some of these comments to see what other people thought. Once again, I could not get to them all because there was over 300 of them. So I did the best I could, and I uploaded some of them. So these are all from various Mets groups on Facebook or our Facebook page. And these are comments right from there. So I told everybody I was going to be putting them up. If they dropped a comment, I put it right into the threads in the groups or on our Facebook page and let them know. So here's a few of your comments that I'm going to read off here in regards to if Buck Showalter should have been fired. Christine Veronica Red said, hell no, he was great all year. Christopher J. Golez, sorry if I say anybody's name wrong here. Some stupid people running around, Buck is the best. Okay. Derek Presenti said the Mets went from a sub 500 team to the best or the second most wins in team history. No manager is perfect. And I don't put the bats going to sleep or the starters imploding on Buck. Every manager makes questionable decisions from time to time. The most important thing Buck brings to the clubhouse is respect. And I feel like the players have that for him. Simple as that. People can say, why is Buck doing this a million times? And I guarantee if they were the manager, they would make a boatload of stupid decisions themselves. All right. I agree, Derek. Nanny's Treasure Chest. Shout out to Nanny. Nanny always posts all of our stuff up there, and always appreciate that, Nanny. Nanny says, no, he worked with what he had under the circumstances. Victor Ambrose said fired. The team went from 77 wins to 101. Sure, September and October were big disappointments, but fired, no. Kara Wetmore says no. Bob Hedrick, no, the Mets won 101 games with not much power. They need Showalter, and they have to get some hitters in that lineup that can drive in runs. He's not perfect, but he did a pretty good job. Carolina Nardello said absolutely not. Buck worked with what he had handed to him. Not his fault. We choked on the trade deadline, and he can't control how our superstar pitchers do in their starts. Bobby Deach says Buck is an excellent and knowledgeable baseball man. I say he should stay on. Very much agreed with everything that was just put right there. Gail Block Rabinowitz said he could only do so much with what he had. I think he had a great roster, and I think he did great to get what he had out of all of them too, Gail. James Strom said when players underperform, fans always want to accuse the manager. Excellent point, James. I could not agree any more with you on that. I think it's absolutely spot on with what you just said. John Costello says ridiculous. He had this team playing well. I agree, John. Mark Back said, I say give him one more year, see what changes he can do to build this team. Henry Fingal said, keep him for 2 more years. He knows Mets boys better than others. Evelyn Miklos said, absolutely not. He's doing his job for his team. Harry Peralta said, hilarious. Do you even think he should be fired? Replace him with who? Beltran? We almost made that decision a few years ago, Harry, until the sign stuff came out. I think it was a sign stealing with the Astros, right? Kathy Steinmuller says, no, he made some mistakes, but who doesn't? Absolutely, Kathy. A few more. No, absolutely not, from Joan Sheehan. Raymond Ortiz de Jesus said never should have hired him in the first place. 20 years, no ring. I don't know if I agree with that one, Raymond, but the 20 years, no ring thing, I can understand, but never should have hired him in the first place. He's got a pretty damn good track record, in my opinion. Gary Joe said, absolutely, fire him. Inconsistent lineups is why our DH spot could not get hot, and some of his pitching choices are silly. Stephen Mariah said, no, come on, are we really going to have this combo? I just put it up, guys. It's not my opinion, I promise you. I just put it up because it's what I saw. Miguel Flores said the lineup that was dealt in, people should be happy that he won 101 games. Just imagine if he had a couple more good hitters on this team. John Steiner said, this is a joke, right? This is not my joke, Don. I'm just repeating what other people were putting up and thought it'd be a good topic. Alexander Vargas said, no, everyone always wants a scapegoat. So what shit didn't go the way it went? Better luck next year. Kevin Heather said they didn't get a DH or traded JV Davis, so it is Billy's fault. Fire Buck. That is the stupidest statement ever. Michael DeGray said, no, he has done a good job. Last ones I'm going to read right here. Let's see. I already have that one, I believe. I got so many of them on here. I'm not going to keep going down the list. Somebody said Billy Epler should be fired. I don't know about that either. I think Billy's doing a good job. I think the trade deadline stuff definitely left a little bit to be desired. And I do agree with one of the previous comments about that, but I don't think Billy should be fired either. Stupid question and stupid post from Patrick Belomo. Sorry, Patrick. I'm just putting up something I thought would be a good topic. Debbie Fiddler says, in Buck, we trust. And I promise you, in all the different groups and all the different threads with all the different comments, it was resounding. Buck Showalter should definitely stay on as the New York Mets manager in 2023 and beyond from other people's opinions here. So pretty resounding yes to it. And I would 100% agree with everybody out there. Let's keep Buck here for as long as we can. And let's keep having a good ride. Buck's a great manager, and there's a lot of great things in store for the Mets in the very near future. Let's hope for it. So I think we got some good things to look forward to and lots of fun topics we're going to be doing over the coming weeks. And I'm going to have some fun by bringing on a new co-host coming on and some shows here in the next couple of weeks as well. That's going to be helping me out with some of the shows. So we want to hear what you think. Drop your comments, drop any topics you want, send them over, message the show if you'd like. We're only on Facebook and we're only on YouTube. So look for Amazing Mets Fancast. And if you do like the audio, you can find it on audio too. I'll start uploading more of the stuff that we do here in the off season, especially, and I'll start uploading more on audio. So whatever you like on the major outlets, subscribe to it, and I'll start loading this stuff up there as well in the very near future on the audio side. But for now, just stick with the Facebook, stick with the YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe. Hit those notifications once again for YouTube. We greatly appreciate that. And then for Facebook, make sure you like and follow the Amazing Mets Fancast right here on Facebook. We really appreciate that. Well, everybody, we'll be back again soon right here on the Amazing Mets Fancast. Hope everybody has a great night. Whenever you check this out, I hope you're doing good. Hope you enjoyed it. And drop any of those comments out there. Let me know what you're thinking on this or anything you want to see in the near future. So until the next time, I'll catch you all real soon right here on the Amazing Mets Fancast.